So my name is Jonathan Greca. Thank you all for coming. I actually wanted to start off with a bit of a personal question. So who in here feels less busy or less stressed than you did 10 years ago, 2006? So if you feel less busy or less stressed, raise your hand. Well, there's a few people. Are you guys retired? And what about the rest of you? 10 years have passed. Think about where you were in 2006. Think about what you were doing. And think about how much you've learned, how much you've grown. Hopefully you've become wiser. Your spouses might disagree with that. But you've come a long way. Why is it that we're busier now than we've ever been? Why is it that we're more stressed? Well, the next video that I'm actually going to show you, I think, explains that a bit. Thanks, guys. So the one that really gets me, and it sounded by the laughter in the room, is the last one. It really got to you as well. They call that the Monday feeling. I actually call it the Sunday feeling, because let's be honest, I don't care how much. I know everyone in here loves their jobs, but regardless of how much you love your jobs, how awful do things get at about Sunday, 6 p.m.? The world's coming to an end, right? And the whole purpose of today's talk, we are going to talk a bit about research, but not in the traditional way that you've come to learn. I want to actually talk a bit about what you can do about that Sunday feeling, what you can do about any time of the week when you're feeling stressed. And I'm hoping at the end of today that I leave you with at least one tip that you can integrate into your everyday to make you a little bit more successful, and if nothing else, make you a little bit less stressed. So you see some numbers up here. We just watched that video. It might have stressed you out a bit. We're going to start with a first exercise, which I hope will actually help you de-stress for the rest of this presentation. It's called 4-7-8 breathing. And basically, I'm going to guide you through it. We're going to do 3 breaths. We're going to do them differently than we normally do them. We tend to breathe very shallow, very quickly, especially when you're up here giving a presentation. So this is actually more for me than it is for you. But what we're going to do is you're going to inhale for 4 count. You're going to hold it for a 7 count. And when you hold it, just see if you feel your heart beating. It's pretty interesting. And then you're going to actually release for 8 counts, very slowly, very methodically. And the one thing I want you to pay attention to is the difference between your inhale and your exhale. Notice how the body, when you inhale, is actually working very hard. You can pay attention to your chest, you can pay attention to your lungs, any part of your body, but just notice how there's this work in the rising action. And then, as you start to exhale, notice how relaxed the body gets. It's done its job, it's brought the oxygen in, and then it starts to let go a little bit. And there's some beauty in that. So let's do it together. We're going to start off with a deep inhale. I'm going to count you through it. So start for an inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to hold it for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nice slow release. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll do one more. Again, pay attention to that release. Notice how relaxed the body gets. So inhale for 4. Hold. See if you feel your heart beating. And we're just going to let go nice and slowly. So 2 things here. This breath is something that you can do anytime you get stressed out, whether it's Sunday night before you're going to bed. It could be the last thing you do before you go to bed. It might actually be something that you try first thing when you wake up. Or after you've had that interesting conversation with your boss or your employees or one of your colleagues, rather than reacting, rather than sending that email right away, why not try the 4-7-8 breath? The other thing that I find interesting here is if you can start to pay attention to the exhale and the impact that has on your body, you have a chance at any part of the day to just look in to your own body for a moment of break. So watching that exhale actually gives you an opportunity to let go of all the stress that you're facing. So why am I up here talking about stress? The reality is stress has heavily impacted my life. It's impacted my loved ones. And quite frankly, when I look back at my past, some of the best moments of my life, some of my greatest achievements that I'm proudest of, originated because of stress. And on the flip side, some of the most negative, darkest, loneliest, and perhaps most embarrassing moments of my life are because of stress. So I made a pact about 10 years ago. I was working at Kraft, I was in the CPG world, and I decided, you know what, I have to do something to manage my own stress. I'm not going to be able to change the world around me. And I started on a journey, an investigation to see what was available out there to, one, learn a bit more about how stress works, and two, to find tactics that would actually help me manage stress. And this was one of the best finds I came across. It was a real jewel, and quite frankly, this changed my life. It's by Jon Kabat-Zinn. And if you don't know him, he was actually a doctor. I think in the 70s, he traveled to Asia, and he discovered meditation and mindfulness, which I'll be talking about today, and decided to bring it back to North America. He's one of the forefathers that brought meditation and mindfulness back to North America. He invented or created something called MBSR, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction, and he uses this to help patients all around, I think, the world, but definitely in North America, manage stress and manage post-traumatic stress disorder as well. So after I read this book, it's actually interesting, more and more books, more videos, more guided meditations started to come my way. And I decided to really look deeply into this art form of mindfulness and see if it would help my life. Then, about 2 years ago, it just exploded. It's almost like yoga. If you think about yoga 10 years ago, back in the 70s, no one practiced yoga. They would have laughed at you if you did. And now, all of a sudden, there's all this new news about mindfulness. There's new studies popping up. There's new apps. You see Headspace there. If you haven't tried it, it actually provides you with 10 free guided mindfulness sessions. And I spent quite a bit of time in New Jersey and New York, and one of the gems that I found there is a place called Mindful. It's actually one of the first mindfulness studios. So they don't actually practice yoga. You pay $10 or $15 US, and you can spend time either in a room by yourself meditating, or they have guided meditations. So times are definitely changing. But why did I get into this? About 2 years ago, and I won't get into the details of it, I dealt with probably the most challenging thing I've ever dealt with in my life. And meditation and mindfulness helped me through that time. It helped me get through that. And I made a pact at that time, because it helped me so much, that I would share this knowledge with other people. And I decided to actually start practicing mindfulness and guided mindfulness and sharing that with other people. So this is my life. As you can see, it's quite hectic. If you look to the right side, that's my day job. I work at HotSpecs. I lead strategic growth and brand building for HotSpecs. And I love my job. I genuinely do. But it's a bit stressful. So what I've decided to do on the side, it's my passion project, is to build something called GentleMind. And what GentleMind is, it started 2 years ago. I decided to start inviting people over to my house to have guided mindfulness sessions. Now, I'm a bit more risk averse than Jeremy, who you heard speak this morning, or his family, who was able to take great risks. I decided I wasn't going to open up a studio just yet, like Mindful, which pretty much popped up 6 months after I had the idea. And I converted one of the rooms in my house into a studio, and I started inviting people. And now, for the last 2 years, pretty much every week, I have about 5 to 15 people that join me for a guided meditation. As a result of that, I've actually had the fortune of being invited to a few organizations to do guided mindfulness sessions for them as well. So you see there at the bottom, WWF, the YPA and YPO, and Runnymede Collegiate. And I just launched a website at www.gentlemind.ca, and I'm trying to get the word out about the benefits of mindfulness, which I'll be sharing with you today. And really the goal here is that if I were to come back here in 10 years, in 2026, I would love for everyone in this room to be able to say that they're actually less stressed today than they were 10 years ago. And if nothing else, I hope that today at least sparks some interest for you to go out and do your own research. I will talk a bit about the benefits of mindfulness, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of studies, and I don't want to validate which ones I feel are better than others, but go out and do your own research. There's a lot of people that do it that I'll share shortly as well, and you'd be quite surprised. This is what's going on in our industry. I wanted to apply this a bit to marketing and the market research world. The reality is we have our friends there in the top left corner from 3G. Shareholders all around the world are expecting growth, right? So what we've done is we've actually cut costs we've reduced headcount, and there's fewer people trying to do more things in less time. And you can imagine the stress that this has on us. In the top right corner, perhaps senior management, coming down obviously from the demands from shareholders and sharing that in the bottom left corner with marketers and insights professionals. And the reality, we're all running around as quickly as we can, not spending a lot of time thinking about what we're doing. And unfortunately, bottom right corner, we have our cool agency that ends up getting the creative design or digital briefs as a result of that. What else is causing us stress? Does anyone know what this number is? Do you know what it represents? We've got some mathematicians in the room. Fantastic. Does anyone know what that represents? It's not our per capita debt, don't worry. It's actually the number of thoughts that you have in a given day, 70,000. So that means we actually have 50 thoughts every minute. And here's the scary part. 80% of them are negative. Most of them are repetitive. Don't be too hard on yourself. This is just evolution at play. And there's not very much that we can do about it. There are some new theories and some data that shows that there's something called neuroplasticity. And with practice, you can actually start to train yourself to think more positively. But the reality is we're wired to think negatively. Negative emotions actually have 3 times the impact that positive ones do. This is another study where they showed that about half of our waking hours are spent mind wandering. I call it the thought vortex. And you don't realize that you're doing it, but half of today, probably half of this presentation, it's probably happening right now, you're thinking about other things. You're thinking about the emails that you need to send, that you haven't sent. The reality is we spend most of our time worrying about a past that we can't get back to, or a future that isn't here yet. And what we lose, the expense, is the present moment. So what's the solution? Do we just turn off that mind, those 70,000 thoughts? That's what meditation is, right? Well, actually, that's one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to meditation. It's not about stopping thinking. You cannot stop thinking. It's going to be ongoing. The trick is to be able to walk away from that for a moment and focus your attention. So how do we do that? Basically, you may have heard in Michael's talk at 1 o'clock, one of the things that we've just learned is that our attention span in 2000, before the rise of mobile, was 12 seconds. We had a good lead on the goldfish that was at 9 seconds. And unfortunately, given all the technology we've been bombarded with, we're now actually only able to hold our attention for 8 seconds. Scary, isn't it? The good news is there's something you can do about it. There's the ability to practice focusing your attention, which meditation is basically the science and the art form of that. Then basically the question is, what's mindfulness? Well, this is the most important part. As you start to practice holding your attention in meditation, you need to apply it to your everyday life. And I'm going to share a few tips on how you can do that in the workplace. But at the end of the day, it's no different than a practice that you do in sports. When you actually get to the game, you need to apply all the things you've been practicing. A lot of people think that you need to spend 30 minutes twice a day meditating. And what I want to share with you today is even if you were to spend 1 minute before you go to sleep, trying a few of these things, it will improve how you go to sleep, the dreams that you have, and how healthy and how good you feel in the morning. And that's really the message that I want to leave you with today. So I'm going to go through this a little bit faster. We have about 6 minutes together. But basically, as you can see here, there's a lot of successful people that actually attribute mindfulness to their success. We have celebrities in the left. In the top right corner, there's a lot of athletes. And executive and entrepreneurs that attribute mindfulness to their success. Steve Jobs was a huge proponent of mindfulness. And there's actually a meditation that I'd love to share with you, feel free to reach out to me afterwards, that Steve Jobs used to do on a regular basis. And it's actually one of my favorites, and I get a lot of positive feedback about it. Once again, I'm going to go through this a little bit faster, but there are 3 reasons why you should consider mindfulness or at least investigate it further. Healthier, happier, smarter. The healthier piece, the one thing that I want to leave you with today is if you could try this again for just 1 minute before you go to sleep, rather than looking at your phone, try to do the 4-7-8 breathing or a couple of other things that I'm going to leave you with, and you will notice a difference in the impact of your sleep. Happier, the theme of this conference obviously is celebrating the past and embracing the future. What I'd also like to invite you to do is enjoy the present moment. It's all we ever live. And then finally, smarter. I won't go into the different studies here, but the first thing that you see there is attention. This is all about attention training and building your ability to be more focused. You can imagine the impact this would have in your day-to-day, whether it's your work or even your relationships. How many times have you had a conversation with someone but not really been present in the moment listening to them? Once again, I hope you guys are still here with me. It's okay if you're mind wandering. It happens about half the day. So let's move ahead and actually try this together. We're going to do an exercise now where we try being mindful, and it's going to require you to close your eyes. We're all going to do it, including myself. We're going to start off by taking a few deep breaths, and I'm going to get you to try to focus on a few different things. We're going to focus on sounds, we're going to focus on our breathing, and then you're going to focus on your body. And what you're going to notice is that each time you try to do this, just like the goldfish, you're going to really struggle to hold your focus on it. It's probably going to last for 5 seconds before you start thinking about work or thinking about when am I going to open my eyes. The biggest thing you can learn about meditation is that's okay. That's supposed to happen. The fact that you're actually aware that your mind is wandering is how you get better at holding your attention. So let's do it now. We'll just close our eyes. We'll take a deep breath in and let it out. And for now, the only thing I'd like you to focus on is the sounds in the room. And every time the mind wanders, just gently bring it back to the sounds in the room. If you hear only silence, that's great as well. My talk was only 10 minutes. All right, so you've done that very successfully. I'm now going to invite you to put your hand on your chest, your left hand on your chest, and just notice breathing again. You want to pay attention. You're going to focus all of attention to your breath right now. And every time it gets distracted to a thought, once again, you're not going to get upset. You're not going to say, I'm not good at this. You're going to just gently bring it back to the breath. Notice how easily it is to get distracted by thoughts. And there's different exercises where you can actually count your breath and see how long you can stay focused on that. But the last one that we're going to do is now change our attention. We can really only focus our attention on one thing, and that's always competing with our wandering thoughts. I want you to focus on your body. We tend to neglect our body. It's a very intelligent organism that basically supports us, gives us clues on how we're doing. But just feel your body in the seat. Perhaps feel your feet on the ground. Just notice where your back's making contact with the chair. And recognize that this whole time that you've been sitting there, all those sensations have been there, but somehow we've neglected to notice them. Why? Probably because we've been thinking. So I invite you to just take another deep breath in, hold it for a sec, and let go. And you can open your eyes. So can we be mindful for just 1 minute a day? That was pretty much 1 or 2 minutes, and I hope you're feeling a little bit more relaxed and ready to take on the day and make it throughout this evening's ceremonies. There is one thing I want to leave you with. I said, you know, you're not going to be doing this for 30 minutes a day. I practice mindfulness, and I struggle doing this every day. But the one thing you can do, if everyone makes a promise to at least try this, you heard Michael's talk today. I think 7 out of 10 people, the first thing they do is check their phone. And the first thing they check is their email. I do this every day, and nothing good's come out of it, ever. So if you could just try maybe the 4-7-8 breathing, or just feeling your body, the aliveness of your body, your breath. The reason we focus on breath in meditation is because, quite frankly, that's what's keeping us alive. And again, we neglect that on a daily basis because we're thinking about different things. A couple of last things as I wrap up that I'd like you to think about. Try smiling just right now. I won't look at you, I'll look down, but just try smiling. And this has a trick. It actually tricks your body into thinking you're happy, no matter how horrible your day is. Like, I'm feeling pretty crappy right now because I wish I had another 5 minutes to do this talk, but I'm going to smile. And it actually does. It starts to send signals to your body that you're feeling better than you are. Another one is to actually be more grateful, because as I mentioned, 80% of the time, you're actually going to be thinking about negative things. So by being grateful, you're rewiring your brain. And finally, as we were talking about earlier, by your bedside, if you actually left a journal there, because one of the reasons we have trouble sleeping and we keep checking our phone is because we remember all the things that we had to do or didn't do. If you could actually leave a journal there and just write down, empty your mind instead of your phone, empty all the things that are bothering you, you'll be able to sleep, maybe smile, think about a loved one, and have a good rest. So in closing, thank you very much. If you have any other questions, this is how you can get a hold of me. As I mentioned, I just launched a website. I have some interesting content that I've put on there. And I really, really appreciate your time. I hope that you take care of yourselves and spend more time in the present moment at this conference. Thank you.